Last summer, I was in Germany and I had the privilege to meet up with Steffen and Janin from Syncro Travels. There was so much value that came out of that meeting that it was impossible to cram into one episode on our YouTube channel. So we decided to sit down and film an Adventure Experts episode. If you haven't seen one of our Adventure Experts episodes before, it's an opportunity for you to join us as we have a deeper conversation around van life, overlanding and full-time travel. We've discussed many topics in the past, from tackling the Pan American Highway and how to make the most out of adventures as an older person in retirement, through to living full-time on the road and how even to get into van life in the first place. Now, these episodes are a longer format. It's how we can provide the most amount of value to you, and they are also available on podcast. But I would encourage you to watch the episode because there's lots of video examples of what people are talking about. It really gives you a feel for being on the adventure. There's a lot of great stuff that we discuss in this conversation, some brilliant tips and a few absolutely incredible stories, and definitely one extremely harrowing story as well. Wow, I would hate that to happen. But before we get into the episode, I do need to thank today's sponsor of this video, which is Surfshark VPN. Guys, if you haven't got a VPN, we've been using Surfshark for well over a year now. We use it on all of our travels and we use it to protect our online data, particularly when we're connecting to public Wi-Fi networks that you find when you're out and about and at campsites and things like that. A VPN basically keeps your data secure through advanced encryption, so if anybody does intercept it on a public network, it's absolutely useless to them. We've used Surfshark VPN in pretty much every corner of the planet by this point, and the reason we like it is because it's super simple. It can be installed on any device, and one subscription covers all of your devices. And in addition to that, there's loads of features and benefits of having a VPN. One of them, for example, is being able to browse Netflix libraries in different countries to access content which isn't available in the country that you're in. I can highly recommend Surfshark VPN. You get a 30-day money-back guarantee. The offer today is 83% off and 3 months free with the code KOMBILIFE, which is an absolutely brilliant deal. I'll link it in the top line of the description below so you know where to find it. Thanks again to Surfshark VPN for sponsoring this video. Now let's get into this conversation. I cannot wait to hear about Steffen and Janin's travels from Germany to India. This is going to be one heck of an adventure. Guys, thanks so much for sitting down with us. I am so excited for today's conversation. It's been so nice to spend time with you, connect with fellow overlanders, and I can't wait to talk about this conversation because I reckon between the four of us, we have most of the world covered in terms of travel experience. So I think this conversation is going to be really fascinating. Last night, it was very difficult not to dive into a lot of these subjects because we just really wanted to talk about our passions and our experiences. Today, we are going to get to share that, which is awesome. So guys, what have you been doing the last couple of years?
Our original plan was to travel around Europe in our van, which we had for a couple of years then, and we always mind that when we're going on holidays, that we spend so much time, so much money at home. So we'd rather quit everything back at home and get everything out of the way, all of the monthly expenses, and just focus on traveling purely, so you can stretch your experience which you're having money-wise. So we planned originally to do only 6 months on the road, traveling Europe, but along the way everything changed. We picked up a dog along the way, and then somehow we ended up in India.
We took the wrong turn.
Yeah, after we took 1 or 2 wrong turns.
And then we ended up in India and traveling for 1.5 years instead of 6 months.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's actually not that long, right?
No, it's a long time, and it's a dream trip for anyone, I think, people to be able to take that amount of time away from your responsibilities, like the real world responsibilities, and actually take some time for yourself to discover the world, discover who you are. Mm-hmm. And just you know, it's a level of freedom that no one else really gets to experience, not many people. And I think it's awesome that you've done it. And yeah, I think it's a long time. And I'd love to know what kind of mindset you were in before the trip. Okay, like what brought about, I'm going to go travel for a long time?
It wasn't really a decision to travel for a set amount of years and then to have like a plan to go back in some job or something. So we just focused at being where we are at the time being and not having a plan really. So that was pretty much our plan along the way. Also, we didn't like set out the interior. We knew that we would like to go somewhere of the route of the old hippie trail. So because this is sort of like the one way where you're actually able to go to India. But we sorted out the visas while on the way. So it was a little bit more complicated than if you would do it beforehand. But on the other hand, you're more free to experience some countries along the way and make some detours and set about some countries which we wouldn't probably not have because, for example, we switched around between Georgia, Armenia and Azerbaijan too many times to count because we're just going back and forth between the country. So that wouldn't have been our plan beforehand, but it's just the way it turns out sometimes.
In hindsight now, would you still adopt a kind of figure it out as you go strategy, or do you think that there are some areas that you might have benefited from pre-planning?
No, I think just to figure it out along the way is the way to go. As long as you have the flexibility of time, of course, because of course you can get stuck somewhere in between, but as we see at the moment with Corona, you can be stuck even when you have the perfect plan, everything figured out on the day and to the minute. So I would definitely ring it again and just take a look where, because you will be seeing so many other travelers who can give you advices where to go, which countries to see, and how to get over some paperwork problems to deal with along the way. I think that's the better way to do, because in beforehand it's a little bit harder, and I think it's very hard to do it on your own if you want to clear it from the get-go, because otherwise you would have to have some company doing some paperwork for you, for example the invitation letters that are required for some countries along the way, like Iran, Pakistan and India.
Yeah, we didn't really plan anything. We just started driving east, and then we were like, oh, because we, you know, when you're in Europe, you don't really have to get a visa for everything. And of course you have to get a visa like for other countries like Iran. But we never really, because we didn't have the plan on going there before we actually were almost at the border. So, and then suddenly it was like, oh, we need all these visas. We need to do all this paperwork.
But we heard from at least 5 people who just came from Iran how to do it. So they will be giving you such great tips along the way. So it's very easy if you've got an open mindset and not worry about how you're going to get there, because it's always possible to do it along the way.
And actually, because Steffen grew up in Vans, and I just got there, I actually got to know this kind of stuff through you.
Yeah.
And we were always just taking, like on all our holidays and our weekends, we would just spend as much time as possible in the van. And then at one point, Steffen said, I want to do a very big trip in a van. I want to drive to Australia. And I was like, but you can't do that. I didn't even know that this exists and that there's a road to Australia. Like, I couldn't imagine it. And then I also started to Google it and to get myself into it. And then there's so many information about it. And then I asked Steffen, but what do we do if the van breaks down? And he just looked at me like, then we will fix it. Like, what kind of question? So, I couldn't imagine that this was possible at all. It's so strange. There's a road from here to Australia.
But that was actually one of the things I wanted to ask you was if you had any reservations before leaving, like were you any concerned about anything? It sounds like you were a little bit concerned about breaking down and that kind of thing.
Yeah, we didn't have any reservations or nothing. We just kind of drove until we were broke. When we were in Nepal, we kind of had to make the decision to either go back to Germany and to start working, or to try to find a job abroad. And then luckily we found a job in Sri Lanka. So then after 1.5 years of traveling in the van, we were able to stay another 1.5 years in Sri Lanka, which was also a very great experience.
It's a different experience, isn't it? When you get to spend longer in a culture, you get so much more rewarding than when you're just driving through.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Obviously, you can't live everywhere, but it's nice to mix it up. And we're trying to do that certainly on our travels, to spend, periods of time in one place. Hopefully not in lockdown again, because Morocco we didn't get to see as much of it as we would like to have, but still it's rewarding, isn't it?
Sorry, you started in Germany and you ended up, where was the last country you went to?
Nepal.
Nepal, yeah.
So Germany to Nepal, and then you spent 1.5 years in Sri Lanka.
Yeah, exactly. We actually parked the car in Nepal, and but it's a little bit difficult. You cannot just park the car there and just leave it there. You have to like repark it after a few months to India, and then you have to repark it again after a few months. So at one point we had to make also the decision if we wanted to keep on traveling in the car after Sri Lanka, or if we wanted to go back home for a while. And I don't really know why, because we actually like traveling in the car, but for some reason we made the decision that we wanted to go back home first. For us, it was also because India's like a little bit of a dead end. It's a little bit harder to go more across because you need to get a guide. You need to spend quite a lot of money to go across these countries, and then you also always have to think about that you maybe have to go back at one point. So you go all the way, you go further and further away from home, and the further you go away from home, the more complicated it gets to go back home. So maybe you guys know that as well, right?
Yeah. So we have to think about it that it's way easier as an overlander or a van traveler to go into Iran and Pakistan than it is to go to Thailand, or at least it is way cheaper and more convenient, because Thailand is such a touristy destination that you would think, it's easy to get inside. You just apply for an online visa, but unfortunately when you're going by land and over the border crossings, then it's quite a hassle. Yeah.
You always have, actually almost for every country you have to have the visa in advance, and unless, or like if you're flying, you can just get the visa on the airport, a visa on arrival most
of the times when you're coming from Europe.
And we were kind of thinking that for Iran and Pakistan, and then we got there, or we kind of looked up while we were on the way, we were like, no, we need to get it.
Yeah, but we actually got visa on arrival for Iran.
Yeah, we got it then, but
unfortunately they cancelled it.
Yeah.
How was it for you guys then? The American continent with the visa situation.
We were talking about this the other night, and I think if you compare the two journeys, the one that you've done and the one that we did previously through Latin America, I think the Pan American seems incredibly easy in comparison. And we knew that anyway because we did some planning fairly early on in our, well, actually, we'd already decided and committed to driving around the world. And then we decided to do the planning about season 2.
Nice.
Well, we knew it was going to be complicated. Like you said, there's so many. I don't think people realise how many different rules there are, not only for different passports, because we all got different passports, and the dog's got a different passport, and the car is got different rules too. So every single border you go to and country you go to, there's different things you have to think about and organise.
And is this route now more complicated for you than the route?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, 100 times. It's incredibly complicated, even without coronavirus. But with coronavirus, it's become so complicated that you can't possibly comprehend all the pieces in one go. And it's like that anyway, right? You're not thinking about what's my exit strategy from India. You're thinking about how do I get into Azerbaijan? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like you've got to take one day at a time with something so massive.
Yeah, there are so many countries to explore, so many small countries as well.
Yeah. I think the American country, you're a little bit freer to move because it's sort of like the mindset of at least the US and Mexico and Canada to go everywhere by car. And in Asia at least, the mindset is to go by bus or by flights or train. Yeah, exactly. So I think it's very uncommon for them to travel around. Even the locals are not traveling by car.
Well, I have a solution to that. We need to get more people in Asia watching our YouTube channels, get them interested in van life and overlanding, and then it'll become really popular in their countries.
There are actually quite a few going by tuk-tuk, an electric tuk-tuk back from India back to Germany.
One Indian engineer, he's coming from Delhi, I think, and he converted his tuk-tuk from petrol to electric. And he put some solar on top, and then he would just go to England only via electric.
You know, sometimes you feel like you live in this small van and you feel like very minimalistic and you're
And
like,
very
okay.
open to the nature. Yeah.
But then you see these other kind of people that are even smaller and then you're like, how do they do that? And it's always, I think you can always go one step more extreme.
Of course. I think
walking.
in most respects for the bicycle riders.
Yeah.
Absolutely. The most hardcore way to travel long distance is via pedal power. Although I do know a guy that did pogo sticks, so that maybe he gets the crown. You know the pogo stick, the one you jump on?
That would be
But
quite a challenge.
Do you know Ed in America? I think he's done.
He's from England.
He's from England as well, right? And he's done the whole world by unicycle.
Whoa, that'll be hard.
Yeah.
And but what I was thinking about the Pan American and about the trip to India or the trip to Nepal we did, because you hear about quite a lot of people from Europe going to America to do the Pan America.
Especially Germans.
Especially Germans, yeah, but you don't really hear, or maybe we don't hear, but about a lot of people who do the opposite way. So from America to Europe and just do a long travel.
It's not so common. I think the Atlantic Ocean probably has something to do with that. Do you know, it's so uncommon to come from North America to Europe that there's at least in the UK, there's very few insurance options. In fact, all across Europe, right? Because we're insured with a German company and there's only one of two that will actually insure us.
Yeah, there's only one company. Well, it's difficult for us too because not only are we an American vehicle, but we're an older vehicle as well. So there wasn't many insurance companies that would insure a vehicle our age and a vehicle from America. So there's only like one German company that does it that we are with.
How's the Moroccan tea, by the way, guys?
It's very good.
Yeah, really nice.
It's sweet, yeah. And that's about half the sugar they'd use in Morocco.
I reckon it's the same for Asians.
Yeah. I'm curious about how your financial preparations were before you left. Did you just save up a bunch of cash to pay for your fuel and food?
It was sort of like the other way around. We saved up some for the trip in Europe, but along the way we figured out that you can stretch the money more than we would have anticipated it. Maybe also because we're also running on LPG. Yeah. Which is in almost all countries less than half of what the normal prices are for petrol. So, but that's reducing our cost quite significantly. And
we had the car already, and Steffen knows the car like inside out. He knows everything. So
we didn't have any cost for the garages and so on. Yeah. So this is like sort of like what reduces our costs along the way. Yeah. Otherwise, this would mean for us to travel longer and further.
Yeah, because fuel is the biggest expense, one of the biggest, isn't it?
The biggest expense is fuel and visa, unfortunately, because some of the visas will get quite expensive,
So we've talked about briefly the vehicle, but I think we need to dive into the Syncro of Syncro Travels, don't you? So what is it? Well, what did you call your van as well?
It doesn't have a name.
You don't have a name?
It's a Syncro.
You don't have a name?
It's very sad.
Actually, either of us had a two-wheel drive Volkswagen bus beforehand, but both of them would have the name. But
the Syncro never got a name.
Just like sort of like a mode of transportation for us along the way. So
he's gotten you all across the world. He deserves a name.
You should be more appreciated. I
So funny.
We would just call him the Syncro all the time, and that's
the Syncro. That could be.
And do you have a name?
Yeah, we called ours Boomerang.
True. I know. Of course you did. Yeah.
I like the name the Syncro.
But
then
the name suggests that you have to get it back to America or that you have to get it back to Germany. So.
Have you ever thrown a boomerang and it's come back to you?
No. It's very hard.
Yeah, it's very hard.
It's hard to make a boomerang come back.
Because I was thinking the same, if it has the name because you want to like do a circle around the world or something.
Yeah, that's what I brought up when Ben came up with that name. I'm like, that means it's going to end up back in Arizona in the desert.
I wouldn't mind if we took Boomerang to the Americas. I am very much looking forward to going back to the Americas one day. This is the problem with the size of the world. It's small that you can get around it, but it's so big that, I mean, it's kind of sad that I won't be back in America for a few years at least, to do a meaningful trip. Yeah. But there's so many places that you can see. Those people that are listening and watching that are from America are blessed because it's a a land rich with variety, and it's why a lot of Americans don't go overseas as well. Possibly
that's true. If you're going abroad in the US, then it means that you're going to another state. And it's actually the same for India. They would also go abroad, and they would even have different languages in different states. So for them, it would be like a whole new experience.
I do think it's encouraging what you said earlier about the guy with the solar powered tuk-tuk, because a lot of people, one of the number one questions that we get asked is, you know, how do you afford it? What do you do for work? How do I make this possible for myself? Understandably, because it's, you know, amazing and everybody wants to experience that. But often people use the thing of money to be like a barrier to prevent them from doing it. They think it's unattainable. And when you see someone of limited resources, you know, chasing their dream and achieving it on a budget, it's quite inspiring, I think. You know?
I think it's definitely possible. Like that's what we noticed as well. We actually drove a lot less on our trip than we drove when we were back in Germany, because here in Germany, if we wanted to go to the beach, we would have to drive 200 kilometers one way and 200 kilometers back. But there, when we were on the trip, we just kind of drove, I don't know, maybe 100 kilometers, and then we found a nice spot and we stayed there for a week. So, I mean, it was nice to have the time as well, but we spent so much less money on petrol and on food, and because you kind of just size down everything. So of course you have to save up and you have to plan, and you have to also have a backup in case something happens. But if you really want it, then it's possible. And even if you're not, you know, you don't have to buy a van and you have to do the full thing right away. You can also start easily. You can just maybe go hiking or just do something that you have never done before and just have a look what you like and what you want to do. So
I think you can do the whole tour in your Golf if you like to do
exactly. There are
whatever car you like to.
It'd be nice to see more people doing those kind of things.
And in former times, people used to.
So let's talk about the Syncro. What year did you say it was?
91.
91, yeah. I think 1991, same as Janin is. Yeah.
Almost 30 years old.
But it's in much better shape than you are.
Oh my god. It's the same. It doesn't have so many wrinkles.
Those are fighting words, be careful. So you mentioned that you went LPG. That was something we were considering. We were a bit worried about finding sources for LPG. But then, like you said the other day, they cook on gas everywhere, right?
Yeah, exactly. That's what we find to be really weird, because loads of travelers go for petrol, they will go for diesel, they will go for, I don't know, what's the other one? The thing that the airplanes use.
Or what do you mean?
Airplanes with the
Kerosene.
kerosene, yeah, exactly. Some people will go for kerosene and everything, which is really hard to get everywhere. And LPG is just available everywhere you go, because you just have to have a look at what the locals are using, and it doesn't matter if you're in Asia or you're going to Spain or to Greece. Everyone's cooking with
LPG.
And also driving.
LPG,
Yeah, also driving.
Also driving is a big.
In India, like half of the tuk-tuks, they have CNG or LPG. So
Because it's much cleaner and much more nice for the environment, for the polluted cities. Yeah.
I wonder what our engine builder would say if we wanted to convert Boomerang to LPG. I'm not sure if he'd be too happy
Then
with
you
us.
just have to have a look if you've got hardened valve seats, and because this is the main thing. Because the valve seats get a little bit hotter, because the running temperature is a little bit higher, but apart from that, everything stays the same.
that was the problem we had, right?
Exactly.
What was the problem you had?
We had the problem, which wasn't the valve seat, but it was the valve. I don't know how it's called. The ring that sort of like keeps the valve.
Guide. The valve guide.
Valve guide. Yeah, the valve
Keep it
guide.
going, like-
Exactly. Yeah. The valve guide was like not put in properly, I think, from the get-go, and this one's decided to move out and then spring around all over the engine.
So would you recommend to someone to go for LPG for an overland trip?
Yeah, I think it's a good idea.
Yeah, it's also a little bit cleaner, especially if you're driving an old car, maybe.
Yeah. Plus you can still use the gasoline as if you would normally do, and if you've got about the same size of petrol versus LPG tank, then you effectively get the double amount of range. So you're also extending your range in case you're going some deserted places where you need to have a little bit more range to go on a single filling.
Yeah.
There are actually quite a lot of people that are afraid of LPG, also with the cooking. But, you know, like almost everyone in the world is cooking with LPG or with gas. And like in India, they're throwing the bottles like out of the car and it bounces onto the street. And it was like, maybe that's the other extreme. So you should be at least a little bit careful. But on the other hand, like we have like a warning system, just like a warner, a gas warner, and yeah. Do we have
Like
no,
a detector?
Since when do we have a gas detector in our car?
We didn't have one? Are you sure?
What for?
Okay, maybe.
Do you feel like you need one? Your tank's outside, right?
Yeah, that's true.
I see that you're wearing an old Volkswagen T-shirt, but why choose a Syncro for this journey? Like, did that come into? Did you already have the Syncro? Did you look for it together, or?
No, we as I said, we already had the same car as two-wheel drive versions beforehand, and the Syncro was sort of like always a dream to have a four-wheel drive version because we wouldn't call it a holiday if we hadn't been stuck once with our old car.
Yeah, and I always had to dig
out and push and so on. And so we said it might be a good idea to change to four-wheel drive.
He was sitting there having the time of his life, getting stuck in the sand, and I was just being so annoyed because I was always the one who had to go outside, dig a hole and push.
We actually use the four-wheel drive way more in Europe than you would outside of Europe. So you don't really need the four-wheel drive to go all the places. Of course, there's some places, especially the parking places. If you want to have a really empty and castaway place, then sometimes four-wheel drive is the way to go. But most of the times you can find the same place, maybe 50 meters different, 50 meters closer to the road. So you wouldn't be 200 meters off the road, but maybe 300 meters with four-wheel drive, and that's pretty much it.
But we found quite nice sometimes that if you go downhill quite steep that you are able to go back up with a four-wheel drive. But then on the other hand as well, if you get stuck somewhere, you can always kind of get some help from some people somewhere. Yeah. So even with a two-wheel drive, you can just try. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. The less off-road capable you are, the easier it is for other people to rescue you. If you have a two-wheel drive car, you just need to have a ladder or whatever to pick you up again. If you have a four-wheel drive, you will go so far that you will get stuck quite badly, so you need a bigger truck. And in case you have a Unimog or a MAN or a Cut or whatever with 4, 6 or 8-wheel drive, if you get stuck then you're really fucked.
Yeah, who's going to rescue you in that?
Then you need like 12 tractors to pull you out to get going again. And
it seems like a nightmare. I just would not want that option.
Exactly. Yeah.
I saw so many awesome trucks when we were in Morocco, and a lot of them were from Germany, actually. Yeah. All of them were from Europe, and most of them were from Germany and Switzerland. And they were amazing trucks, and I would love to go on an adventure in them. They look so comfortable with all the resources and so many hundreds of litres of carrying capacity in terms of water. But if you get stuck in that thing...
And those persons would usually be very, very careful to get stuck. They would go on way easier roads than we would go. Yeah. Or even you would go with boomerang.
I noticed that all the time. Like there'd be a perfectly good cliff top parking space with a few little vans there, and then you'd go to a flat kind of parking area in town, and that's where the big rigs would be.
Yeah. What's going on there? It's a little bit off. Yeah, exactly.
Did you have sand ladders with you that you brought to get you out of?
Yeah, we have
used it quite a lot.
We had 4 of them with us. We've got like the really slim glass fiber ones, which are really nice.
I was always the one who had to go outside and stuck them in. Not all the time.
You could have driven as well.
Yeah, that's true.
Did you prepare the vehicle mechanically at all, like for the journey, or did you just get in and drive on day one?
Yeah, we sort of because we went on holidays already, so we knew our van already, and this is what I would give as a recommendation for people as well, not to have like a set date and then to have the vehicle ready a day before, but rather do the vehicle like as a steady project, try it out, have a look, throw out what you're not really keen on and what you're not using, and then keep on going on weekends or holidays and whatever, and then figuring out what kind of vehicle you really like and what you like to have with you. And this is what we did. I think especially for the big trip, there was nothing special we took or something. It was just what we would usually have.
Plus a little bit more warm clothes, because we knew that we would go maybe in the cold.
Exactly.
But
Maybe in the cold. I've seen your videos. It looks more than maybe in the cold.
Yeah, exactly, because you sort of like go through different seasons. Then of course you need to have the beach clothes as well as some winter clothes. So.
But when we left, like, it kind of felt like just going to the beach again. Like, we didn't feel like going on a big trip. And even our parents were like, bye-bye. You know, no one really, because we've done this so often. So it wasn't really something special. But then we were away for like 1.5 years in the car.
Yeah.
So.
But we didn't, as we said, we didn't plan to.
We didn't plan it. No, actually, we just wanted to do the small trip. So maybe that's also why. Yeah.
Janine, can you tell me a little bit about how the interior was prepared for the trip?
Not well at all. Interior is like cupboards and stuff, right? So
Inside,
we have cupboards. So we have we didn't really spend a lot of time like building the van out inside. We just have like one of those IKEA Schränke.
Oh, an IKEA Schrank. Yeah, of course, yeah. We've got one of those too, yeah.
What do we call this one? A cupboard? Or no, rather this one?
This is a wardrobe, yeah.
It's like a shelf
You know
with
that,
boxes.
yeah, exactly. The shelf is maybe the best
It's a
word.
shelf. Yeah.
I'm not sure.
And regal.
So it's pre-made. I mean, I've had the privilege of looking in there. It's always fun when you see a van on TV and then you get to see it in real life. And we're parked right next to you right now in your barn.
Oh, exactly.
So it's quite nice to have.
Yeah.
It's nice to have the two vans next to each other. But inside your van, it strikes me and reminds me of my first van in the Astra Alaska project. That was done not in a rush, but in a relatively short amount of time with relatively short resources and just putting something in that was functional without being over the top, you know. And yours looks like it's kind of minimalist, you know. Apart from one standout luxury feature, which I would like to ask you about. Do you know what it is?
Yeah, of course.
What is it?
You probably mean the floor heating.
The floor heating.
Underfloor heating.
Underfloor heating and the seat heating.
That's actually quite nice.
Yeah, because we have a water heater inside, which I probably wouldn't do it again, but we had at the time, and we thought it would be a good idea, and to have a water heater to fill up the floor heating, as to not have a ventilation need, so you would have like nice and not too dry air inside. But because of the higher energy consumption, electricity-wise, it wasn't such a good idea. But that's what we stick with, and we didn't change the drawing of the wood because we didn't need the heatings that often.
There must have been some situations like that video I saw of you in the snow. Were you drunk in that video?
Oh yeah.
Can you explain to me the drunken filming that I saw on YouTube?
Oh my god. I think we drove up this mountain road and there was no one there and it was completely quiet and empty, and then all of a sudden there were like 5. It was in Armenia, right?
There was snow everywhere.
Yeah.
I was looking at that thinking, where are they going? Are they going to get stuck? Because it looked like treacherous.
I didn't even know why we went up that road. That road. I think we went up because you have, from the top of that road, you have quite a nice view to the Mount Ararat, which is in Turkey, and it's just a very special mountain. So we wanted to go up that road to have a nice look on the other mountain. Does it make sense? Yeah. But so we drove up this road, and it was completely empty, completely quiet, snowing and cold, and then there were people picnicking there, and we were just like, we were wondering what they were doing, and they also were wondering what we were doing there, and they were so friendly. They were just like, come on, and
they were Russians, yeah.
Yeah, they were Russians, and then
so
they
a lot of
invited us.
vodka has passed, yeah.
They invited us for food and for drinks, and Steffen never drinks and drives. So he always says, like, I don't even drink a sip when I'm driving, like, don't.
That's a good,
No, thanks.
good on you, mate.
So he didn't drink at all, But then they said that I have to drink like twice as much.
Well, it makes sense. I mean,
They didn't really force me to, but it was just so funny. They were just so nice. So I just kept on drinking Steffen's stuff. And then I got super drunk because we usually don't drink much.
And they would race their snowmobiles up and down, and they would roll those snowmobiles multiple times. So.
Wow.
Actually, it was a little bit dangerous, maybe riding, but I was wearing a helmet, so I don't know. I think. Yeah, and then we ended up parking for the night there.
Yeah, exactly.
But we went up a little bit
close to the
high.
top until we were stuck. So.
and how did your underfloor heating serve you in the freezing cold on top of the mountain? Was that one of the situations where you were able to use it?
Yeah, we are able to use it, but because our battery system isn't like super sophisticated, we had 80 amps of battery inside the van, and when we would have solar, when we would have sun, that wouldn't be a problem. But without the sun, the battery would be depleted quite quickly. So we would just switch it on for 1 hour in the evening and 1 hour in the morning, maybe, and that's it.
Yeah, I mean, those are the key times, aren't they? Because, to be honest, when you live outdoors, you do tend to go to bed with the available light. Exactly. You know, so you're not really up before the sun's up, and you don't stay up much longer after the sun goes down.
What's the point, right?
And what we did sometimes, we would just kind of go for a strong walk to kind of feel warm again. And and with the battery...
That's the real budget solution, isn't it? Budget van life heating right there. A strong walk.
A strong vodka or Russian vodka. Probably almost
Russian
even
vodka.
cheaper. Yeah.
I think Russian
Combine
vodka.
both of those with some snowmobile rolling, and I think you're good for the night, aren't you?
Yeah, we because we have a very small battery, because our van, like, we never built it to live in it. We just kind of built it to go on holidays with it, and then we somehow started living in it without really planning. And so we have like this very small battery.
Oh, was it 80 amp hours?
80 amp hours, yeah.
Yes, and just a normal lead acid battery?
No, it is a deep cycle battery, so we could almost use everything from. But this one is 11 years old or something.
It was very old.
So it was 5 years old when we used it, but the same, because we knew that it worked very well before. Why change it out if you knew it's gonna be good? You know, if you take something super new in the get-go, I think you're gonna have problems with it, because you always have to dial it in a little bit just to see. Of course, you can get lucky and everything will be working out fine, but sometimes.
We're going to talk about your video series in a little bit, but I'd imagine, just whilst we're on the topic of power, that as you started to do more and more of the documenting and video making, your needs for power went up. You did mention that you added some solar panels on the journey. So you started out with 100 amp hours? 100 watts, sorry?
100 watts, yeah.
And then I was always getting in trouble when I was sitting in front of the computer. Steffen was always like, the battery's running low, the battery's running low.
Yeah, he sounds like me. Well, although I don't have that issue anymore, but I did previously, so.
Yeah, now it should be okay, right? With
Yeah, honestly, like when we installed our Battleborn batteries, we were very lucky that we had the CEO of the company, like the original founder of the company, come down and meet us and bring us the equipment. And he said to us at the time, he said, these batteries will relieve your battery anxiety. And I thought, you know, that's marketing speech, like it sounds nice, but honestly, we don't have to think about power, and it's...
You only have to think about weight,
Yeah, you have to think about weight. And the batteries help with that, but we've got 4 of them, and it's probably as much as weight as we'd want to be carrying battery-wise in a small van.
So you can work through all night, probably.
Yeah, we have our computers rendering all the time, overnight, at least a few nights a week. And often both of us are working during the day full time. And the great thing is that we don't have to worry if we're parked in the shade. I mean, just recently it's been really hot here, hasn't it? So it's nice to be able to not worry about that power issue.
And also, you know, because we kind of relied on solar power in the end, we got like more and more solar, but we never changed the battery because the battery was still okay. But that meant when the sun was really burning on the car and it was really hot inside, that was the time for me to be inside the vehicle and
Be working on something.
Because that was
Yeah,
the
we
time
know all about that,
We actually ordered we would have an Indian company to build us a lithium battery, because they said they were going to build for us from scratch.
They said no problem, we do it. tomorrow, it's ready.
No, not like that.
They
But
said
they said they would take 3 to 4 weeks. So we said, yeah, that sounds good, because we made the plans together, like which cells to use, what kind of battery system and everything. But somehow they kept on pushing it further and further and further, and then we sort of like canceled the whole thing, and we haven't come back to the lithium yet. So maybe that's a plan for next time.
Yeah, I think it's the way forward, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's just super expensive at the moment. In the end, if you have a look over the lifespan, I think it's way cheaper. But if you have a monetary look, it's just super expensive.
It makes sense once you start spending a lot of time inside the van or with your van, because as long as you only use it for the holiday, you don't really want to sit in front of the computer the whole time during your holiday. So then there's not really a point on spending so much time on it.
Except for when you have really bad weather and you're forced, or you sort of like go inside because it's raining all day, and this will
But
be
then
when
you
you
also
don't get the solar power.
But then you also don't want to do a holiday in the van, maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's definitely, for anyone that's spending a lot of time in their van, living in it full time, or working from their vehicle. And this is the thing that I think that is really going to take off for people that are wanting to get into van life. I can see a huge opportunity from this pandemic thing, where people are now able to work remotely. So even sometimes their companies are insisting that they work remotely. Perhaps people will be doing desk sharing, or they just won't be going into an office at all. Why, if you can work at home, why can't you work from a van? We do it all the time, and I can tell you now that, you know, maybe you work Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday at home or in the office, and then you go on Friday to a forest or a mountain. As long as you've got a good signal, you can work Friday, finish a bit early, enjoy the mountain. You've got a longer weekend. You can wake up there on Monday morning when all those other fools are getting on the train, commuting, you know, like, and you're sitting there in a mountain.
And you're already there, yeah.
You're already in the office, chilling out, beautiful view. Honestly, once you've sampled that kind of like flexibility in your work, it could completely change your mental health, you know?
I think it's going to change a lot in the next couple of years when the satellite systems for internet is really, because they are building it up hugely to have internet available everywhere in the world, like fast, reliable internet that's also affordable.
Yeah, I noticed that when we were looking up at the stars last night. Oh, satellite. Oh, satellite.
Yeah.
Too many satellites. Yeah. All right, so I'm curious. You know how you'll know exactly what I mean when I say that you get attached to your vehicle, particularly when it comes to like doing any work on it, when you don't want other people to touch it because you don't feel that they will do the same, have the same level of care as you will. Can you relate to that?
Yeah, that's actually part of the reason why we're doing what we're doing at the moment, because whenever we would go somewhere, we would get a lot of the time, we would get the feeling that the people have done their car in a certain way, and it wasn't like thought all the way through from the beginning, because it was a little bit off, you know. It was more like maybe a plumber has done this and maybe an electrician has done this, but it's not like a van or a camper van builder has done the whole thing with a nice, neat, compact system that everything fits together. And that's part of the reason why we're doing what we're doing at the moment, which is advising people to do different stuff, for example solar panels and so on, because most of the people would just put their solar panels on and put them in parallel and then not worry about it at all, and because very little people, and when you're going out to a normal solar star, they won't know that you can put them in series as well, which is probably most of the times better for a camper van anyway. So it's always a little bit weird to see.
Depends on the panels, right? Because if they don't have like the bypass diode, and you get that shading problem where you can knock out like the whole panel just from a little bit of shading.
Exactly, yeah.
I noticed on your roof that yours was sitting a little bit below the roof rack, the one that's on there at the moment. Yeah. Did that ever cause you problems, the shading?
I reckon if the sun is so low that the shade will affect it, your energy will be so little. So if you're having maybe 200 watts of solar and you only get 5 watts out, and then you're dropping down to 3 watts, it's like nothing before and nothing now, so it doesn't really matter. And if it's like straight on, then it doesn't matter at all.
After we had 300 watts of solar, we never had any problems anymore with the power. How much solar do you have on your van now? On Boomerang?
So it's 380?
It's close to that.
Yeah.
It's 320.
Oh, 320.
And what was the maximum you were actually getting out of them?
We get 320.
You actually get 320.
Yeah,
that's
not
good.
not at the. We haven't had that for a little while, but we also haven't got up there and cleaned it
Yeah.
for a little while. So that may be related to that issue.
That's so weird. And you've got monocrystalline glass panels, right?
Yeah.
Because that's what we get the feeling as well. With the monocrystalline glass panels, you actually get what you pay for. And we had some flexible ones in the beginning, and we would never ever, even in the Indian sun, get what was written on it. So
That's interesting.
yeah.
It's that a lot of people want to go for those flexible panels for the convenience. Sometimes it's your only convenient option. It's definitely more stealthy, but for overlanding in particular, I didn't want to do that because I felt that they didn't last as long. Partly because they can get scratched up when you're cleaning them, and then also partly because they are stuck straight to the roof, and so all of the heat goes onto the panel and has nowhere to disappear.
And also heats up the camper van, yeah.
Yeah, so it heats up the van. It deteriorates the panel quicker because it's not able to cool. So there's lots of advantages to having the fixed ones when you're overlanding.
Yeah.
But for weekend campers, the stealth one is totally good.
Yeah, but I reckon for weekend campers, even a small box which you can just fold out and then put it inside your cigarette lighter is doing fine as well, which you just pack down for the night and it's good.
Yeah, that has the advantage that you can chill out in the shade and put the panels in the sun, which is nice, right?
Yeah.
Then you wouldn't have to be doing your work in the direct sun.
In the hot car, yeah.
Yeah, we thought about that too. But so far, we've been doing okay. We don't have to worry too much, so the power's nice. So you didn't really get much mechanical work done by other people on the way to your vehicle?
No, we actually never let other people work on our car. We would always do everything on our own.
They always wanted to, like in Armenia, we were at this one very, very nice workshop for Luke.
Hi, Luke. We'll talk about you in a minute, boy.
In Armenia, we were in one workshop, and the people really wanted to help us. And Steffen was always, because they didn't know the car, so it took them much longer to get things out and in. And you could see Steffen always trying to kind of
For
nice.
example, the exhaust, the exhaust has to go in like sort of puzzle where you have to twist it in this way to get it up, and then it would have to move over and over again, and then you would have it in the right place. And whenever I would push it in and then over, then he would be like, oh yeah, it's almost there, and you would ram it in, and then it would be stuck again in this weird position, so you would have to force it out again. So, and that would happen 3 or 4 times. Then I was like, oh yeah, we have to get this and this just to shove them off, and then you could do it quickly. So sometimes they are just a little bit too brutal. Yeah.
Luke wants to go out and play with Alaska, I'm sure.
Yeah, I think it's a big advantage if you for us it was a big advantage that Steffen could do everything because then you also know how it's done and you understand it.
So we've talked about your preparations, we've talked about the vehicle. I really want to talk about the journey, but honestly, I think we have to talk about Luke. He's making a big fuss right now. He wants the attention, you can tell.
Shall I put him?
Come on.
What a pleasure and what an asset he has been to your travels. It's so nice to see you guys here all together now. And there's a lot behind that story because that didn't look like it was going to happen at one point, did it? Luke here has got some interesting stories to tell. Can you run us through from the beginning? Did you think you were going to pick up a dog along the way?
Not at all. Neither of us ever grew up with a dog, and we couldn't really picture our life with a dog, and especially not traveling with a dog.
Right.
So we were never looking for a dog or anything. But look, come here. What up? Yeah, we couldn't imagine it, right? And then we found this little. We were at this one parking spot and there was no one else around. And then all of a sudden there was this little dog. So we took him to the vet. And then the vet said that it actually happens quite often that small dogs either get abandoned. Is it abandoned? Or ausgesetzt. Or they are getting separated from their mother. So it was an island kind of. So we just kept looking around in that area if we could find the mother, because he was still very small, but there was no one there. So we kept him for a week. And in that week, we started doing researching about how to travel with a dog and if it could work at all. And we tried to imagine our life with a dog. And after 1 week, we went to the vet again. And then she said it would be the best for him, for the dog, if you could take him with you, because on this island we don't really have a dog shelter, and sometimes we have to put them down if we cannot find a parent for the dogs. So then it was like we were actually quite happy that she said it, because we wanted to, not happy, but we wanted to. At that point we were so in love with Luke already that we couldn't imagine.
You asked me if we could keep him after a couple of seconds.
I saw him for 2 seconds. I was like, okay, can we keep him?
Yeah. Oh, he's very lucky you found him.
Yeah, we are. It's different traveling with a dog. So I mean, I'm so happy that we have Luke. It's like the best that ever happened to us. But you also have to plan everything a little bit different. For example, when we were in Sri Lanka, we wanted to fly home, both of us.
But traveling with a van, I think it doesn't matter at all.
Yeah, but
it's nothing you have to do special, right?
Yes, exactly. So it depends on what you want to do. So for us, it was okay because we could just take Luke with us. Yeah.
But just if you're planning to go by train for some journeys, then it's a little bit bigger of a hustle to take a dog along.
Yeah.
It is hard sometimes, like with be going into places where you can't have a dog. Like if you're into visiting museums or art galleries for a few hours and you don't know you can't put a dog, or even in America we found in some national parks you couldn't have a dog, so you couldn't go to that. So there is a few things that you have to miss out on or work around, but
or in Australia even more. There's like whole regions where there's no dogs about it.
But in Australia they sell these like costumes for dogs that turn them into kangaroos, and legally you're allowed to take a kangaroo everywhere. So that's what Leah told me anyway.
Nice.
Do you think it will be hard to get Alaska into Australia? Do you think?
No, I'm sure we can find somewhere to hide her in the van. Like there's lots of store. We've just put her in the cupboard, or
you just have to go from New Caledonia. I think that's sort of like the last where you could go by ferry. And then it's only a very very short way to go to Darwin.
Yeah, I think it's going to be quite difficult to get her in, but once she's in, she's in.
That's true.
Yeah, I would search for a boat to smuggle her.
that would be nice.
Can you imagine? They will fine you so much money if they call you. Yeah.
Do you remember that advertisement? Do not come. You will not make Australia home.
I'm just imagining if you're going by sailing boat to Australia, then you will arrive at the harbour and then you would have to drive with a car to the customs point, right?
Probably.
I'm not too sure how that would work.
And
But
then the dog might have run off. You couldn't find it again.
they have varied. You heard about like that Johnny Depp got into a big trouble because he brought his dogs
Really?
there without clearing them or whatever, and he got
How did he manage to do that?
he
On his private plane.
on his private.
Okay.
It's Johnny Depp, isn't it?
Now, why don't you take your private plane?
Yeah, I wish. Yeah, so we have to see. It's one of those things where it takes so much work to like think about and to sort out that it's too far to think about it, and it might change. Yeah.
I have found that there are some sacrifices you have to make when travelling with a dog, especially with Alaska. It's not always straightforward. I do think it's more rewarding than any of the troubles, and I'm sure you guys agree. But as well as not being able to experience some things, there's also how does the animal interact with the locals, and how does the animal interact with other animals on the journey. How was Luke?
He always loves people, whoever it was. Yeah, he's very open. We always call it like the street puppy gene. Oh God, I'm so bad in English today. Genes. The street puppy genes, because he's always going from person to person, and he's like just a very open dog. And the same with other dogs as well, but he always needs to be the boss. So as long as he's the boss, everything is fine. But luckily, when we were traveling to India, like many dogs were smaller than him, apart from the regions where they were bigger than him.
That sounds very lovely.
Oh gosh, maybe you should talk for a while. You talk now. Yeah.
Yeah.
How,
Yeah,
how's it
good.
with Alaska actually? Like how is, because she's also very open, right?
She didn't really have too many attacks from dogs, but she had a few interesting encounters with street dogs. But now everything has been pretty good. Whilst we've been traveling through the Western world, like the US is amazing for dogs. They're so welcoming to dogs. Morocco, we were a bit worried, but for the most part, the humans were okay. There's a lot of rabies, so we had to be quite cautious with how Alaska was with the rabid dogs.
Yeah.
Did Luke ever get attacked on the journey?
Once,
Yeah.
yeah.
But
In Armenia.
he got in a fight loads of times actually, but normally they end up like fighting for a couple of seconds, and afterwards they will figure out who's stronger. Normally it wouldn't be like a really big deal. Yeah. Only in Armenia once they would rip him apart.
You said the dogs were really big. Is that
Yeah,
what you?
those were like I think they're also called Georgian or Caucasian sheepdogs.
They
Those have been bred to attack bears. So
And I thought he
And the
was a bear.
wolves, yeah. So they have very, very big dogs there, and
So what happened with that situation?
it can get a little bit difficult, and that was for us the same as well, because there are not so many vets in some countries, and also the streets are very bad. So when we were in Armenia, we were kind of off grid, and then Luke got attacked by like a pack of these big dogs. We got him out, but he had like a few bites on his belly, and especially the belly part is quite dangerous. And then we were looking up for a vet, and there was one vet on Google Maps in Armenia, and it was a 3-hour drive
actually,
away.
there's loads of vets, but all of the vets would be specialized in like cows for eating or pigs for eating. You know, they would just do like normal examinations whether or not they would be fit for human consumption. But of course, those would be like totally different and vets, and they wouldn't be open like to a public for just
Be-
dogs.
Because I think in these countries, like people don't have the pet dog. They have maybe a dog as a working mate.
So you need to know, it's good to know how to do like first aid for your dog.
Yeah,
A couple of things would be good.
That must have been quite a scary situation to have him so viciously attacked. Like, and Steffen, you said you ran into the middle of it without thinking.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It could have easily gone the other way if they decided to attack humans as well,
But they are usually, these dogs are very shy with humans, so they would attack a dog. But as soon as they see a human and you do something, or you even just pick up a stick, then they
or you
would
just walk towards them, they would be very scared of you already.
Yeah.
Which is actually quite weird, because we talked to some people who would be traveling by bicycles, and they said that the street dogs would attack them regularly
Really?
When they were cycling.
when they were cycling.
Yeah, I've seen that.
Yeah, because somehow they attacked the cycling dogs. And they said as well, when they're stepping off the bicycle to push, they wouldn't attack them anymore. As soon as they would jump on and start to get rolling, they would be vicious again. So
That's frustrating.
Yeah.
Have you seen the dogs barking in the wheel? Like they run along the road and they'll bark right into the wheel.
No.
You've not seen that? I've seen that loads of times. Maybe.
Usually, when you're driving in Asia, where it's get really, really hot, you don't see the dogs out during the day because it would just be too hot for them. They are laying in the shade somewhere just to be chilling, so they would only come out during morning and evening.
Usually all the street dogs are quite lazy, so they don't really do anything, especially in Turkey.
Yeah.
So I'm sure at the point that you'd rescued Luke, you'd been living with him in this tiny van, experiencing all these things together, rescued him again when he got attacked from the bear-killing dogs. I'm picturing this chaotic scene. And then by that point you were really attached to him. And then you told me what happened in India. That must have been heartbreaking. Can you run us through what happens?
Yeah, it was. We often get asked if we ever had any bad experiences, and that was like the one only really, really bad experience. But this is also kind of the worst thing that could happen.
I can imagine 100 worse things that could happen.
Worse things than Luke being kidnapped?
We could have got into an accident. We both could have been killed. We could have been paralyzed. We could have been kidnapped.
I mean, now that he's.
We could have drowned.
Yeah, that's true. That could have been. But And for
Yeah,
me,
I can already see the comments when you say there's nothing worse that could happen than
for me, in this time, it was the worst. You know, usually you have like all these dreams and you have all these wishes. And it was such a weird feeling as well to just, you start having just only this one wish. You just want this one thing in the world. And yeah, so I actually didn't say what happened yet, right? So
yeah,
maybe
I think you got in a little bit too deep.
Yeah, it's so I was inside the van and I was doing just some work on the laptop. And Luke, because it's too hot in India inside the van sometimes, and you probably know that as well. So Luke would always sleep underneath the van. There's some air and it's nice in the shade. Anyways, he was sleeping underneath the van, and then all of a sudden the door was not even closed. I was not wearing earphones or anything, but India is such a loud country. So I didn't really hear anything. And then suddenly someone knocked on my door and they said that he couldn't speak English, but he pointed to the empty leash and he pointed to tuk-tuk and he just did like this. So then I kind of understood what he meant, but I couldn't, I was just so shocked and I just started bursting into tears. And you were in town organizing a few things for the van.
Yeah.
And I was alone and Luke wasn't there, and I just knew that a tuk-tuk apparently took him somewhere, and I just kind of burst into tears and I made a big scene, and then many people started coming around me, and then they started to translate what the guy was trying to tell me, and then they translated that a tuk-tuk took him. And it was shocking. The police came, but they also couldn't do anything. There are so many bad things happening in India, like a dog being kidnapped. And actually the kind of funny thing is that dog kind of means, in Hindi it means daughter. So I would always say my dog is being kidnapped, and they would think my daughter is being kidnapped. So they were very shocked and really wanted to help. And once they found out that it was just a dog, they were like, oh, this is not. So just pick that one. You can just take another one. There's two over there, you know. So it was really, really hard.
Did you give up hope that you would see him again?
Not really. We always tried, but it took us and a lot of friends. We got through the church, through the search. We got to know quite a lot of people that helped us, luckily. And after 3 months, we kind of said that we have to keep trying, but we also have to maybe try to find a way to live with this. Because the bad thing, if this happens to you, you can never really have closure, because you always think, if I do a little bit more, if I do another advertisement, if I do another this, that, then maybe it will finally reach the right person. And we did everything. We did reward, we did flyers, we did advertisement, we did everything possible. Everything someone would suggest us, we would just do it, because we didn't know the country, we didn't know the culture, so we just had to rely on other people as well. We never really gave up hope completely, but it was a long time. Over 3 months is a very long time.
Yeah, that is a really long time.
So we were kind of thinking, okay, maybe we have to find a way, try to deal with this, try to find closure, keep looking, but also try to find a way to live with it. But then luckily, 10 days later, he got found. Finally, some flyer reached the right person, and we got the right call. We had been looking. At that point we had been looking at 200 dogs or something. So every day we would get pictures of dogs, but it was never Luke. And in India, the people think different. They are they show you a picture of a brown dog, and then they're like, I found Luke. And you're like, okay, and you're getting very excited, and then it's a brown dog, and you're like, I'm sorry, but this is not my dog. And they're like, why not? Just come along. So it's hard. They don't have this connection to dogs. So it's, but for us, it's a family member.
Yeah, that would have been really tough. I can't imagine going through something like that.
For such a long time as well. We have to applaud your tenacity to keep going and keep trying to find Luke. I think I would have given up hope at that point, probably like you did, that you would ever start to think that you would ever see him again. And to see you all together now is just so amazing. So
yeah, we couldn't have done it. Wasn't, everyone always says you found Luke, and you did such a great job that you found Luke, but actually it wasn't us. Like, of course, we also did stuff, but we couldn't have done it without our friends in India. Like, they were the ones.
Mostly just Vijaya.
Yeah, mostly Vijaya.
She would be getting like, I think she was like, I don't know.
Yeah. Because the thing.
She was really obsessed with
Yeah.
it, you know, like really obsessed. She wouldn't sleep for days or so. Just keep on. And then we would actually have to calm her down not to go for every person who would call her.
Yeah.
And they would say, no, I can't show you a picture. Then she would say, yeah, okay, I'm going to be coming. And India and China is like, when you have a look at
9 million
the,
people. Yeah.
I think if you count the surroundings, there's like 20 million people living there.
Wow.
So this would be like the area of people. So you would easily take you a day to go from the one side to the other and back.
And she went everywhere. And at one point, we talked to her and we said, we have to find a way to
cut your work down.
Yeah, because you cannot keep on doing this. And that was also very bad because we had to leave the country because of our visa and then because of the car, because you're only allowed to stay a certain amount of time with the car in the country. Yeah. You probably know that as well from your travels.
And during that whole process, you were making your video series. I'm sure you didn't feel like documenting the troubles you were going through, but I'm so glad you did. It was such an difficult but so incredible story to see.
Yeah, the thing was it was a point where we didn't really want to take any more videos, but also there was so much happening that was also interesting. Like, it was just like, we had the engine failure, we had to go to Nepal, and I just started to take some videos with my mobile phone because I just felt like I couldn't have the strength to hold the camera, and also was thinking I would never use this footage anyways because if Luke wasn't there, I couldn't do the series.
Just to have some memories, yeah.
Yeah, but somehow, I don't know. Yeah, we ended up at least taking a few shots, so now I'm happy that I did it. That we did that.
Why did you first start to make a video series?
Because of you guys. That's actually quite a big part. Yeah. No, Janin always used to, when she was 9 or so, she would take videos with her friends dancing and so on.
Really good video.
And she would cut them and make special effects already. And
Cool.
she would always do when we were going to holidays to Norway and when we were going to places. She would always make some videos about it, like one video just for friends, you know.
I think I remember seeing any dancing in the series, maybe, and special effects and transitions. How did you find it making videos on the road?
It was hard, a little bit difficult because we didn't have so much power.
Janine would obsess about it quite a lot to just be doing voiceovers 80 times in a row. So
did you find it hard to find a quiet place to do a voiceover? Because some countries are really loud.
Yeah, especially like when we were in India, I just wanted to like sometimes just be in the front of the laptop and work, and then there were always people coming, and they were so nice. They would bring you tea, and they were just wanting to have a chat, and but you never really have some time for you and for the van. For the videos.
What was your motivation for bringing the camera out? Why were you creating the series?
Actually, just for us and for our family, yeah. And also because, like, I don't know, we watched a few videos of from you guys, and we were like, oh wow, this is like very professional. Maybe we can at least try to also, because it's so nice to see how other people are traveling, and then we thought maybe we can also give something back, like
some
to
impression back,
some impressions of our travels back.
Yeah, it was incredibly valuable. I know that a lot of it was with English subtitles, but I found it very interesting. Just even the videos that you took, just driving on the road, you know, seeing what the other roads are like and the other towns are like, and it's really nice to be able to just sit there and drive through the world with you guys, you know.
Yeah, same for us.
For the first time, I got the experience of just clicking through episodes that took you months. You know, so you suddenly like live 6 months of your life just like in a few episodes.
Yeah, it's great. And what was actually quite nice as well that because we were already back home in Germany, but we still had some footage left, and we were able to do the whole travel like twice. It felt like
you can live through it once more time when editing.
So After your travels, life brought you back to Germany. Was the journey coming back anything like the journey going there?
You mean taking the van back or flying back?
You drove back, right?
Yeah, but this was just me because Janin stayed for the rainy season in Sri Lanka when it was off season anyway for the touristy bit, and I would go from Nepal to Germany to get the van back home, because with the Kanye it's always a little bit of a hassle to move the car around to different places and keep them there, to find a parking spot for such a long time where you can keep it unattended and so on. So we decided the best thing would be to get it back to Germany, and as it turns out we had the right timing for us, right?
Yeah, and we couldn't go both because we had Luke, and in Sri Lanka there wasn't really a place where we wanted to leave him. Also,
Yeah, this was in the very beginning. Yeah, later on we could have kept them at France, but in the beginning we didn't knew other people to have a dog. So
also, especially after all that happened. So I stayed with Luke in Sri Lanka, and Steffen had to drive back home.
Oh, I wasn't sure if Luke made the journey with you. So Luke flew home.
He flew home
in the
after
end,
1.5 years. So after the whole trip, we flew to Istanbul, and then we actually wanted to go back by bike.
by bicycle.
By bicycle, yeah. It was a little bit exhausting traveling with a bicycle and a dog, because we had this trailer, and Luke hated the trailer. And we always had to put Luke inside the trailer and outside the trailer. And Luke is quite a big dog, so he's like almost 30 kilograms. And having 30 kilograms in a bicycle trailer, it really slows you down.
It took you a year and a half to drive there.
Yeah,
And how long did it take you to drive back?
I think about 3 weeks or so. But I haven't been driving like all the days. I would take like rest days, and I would have to redo some breaks daily. So would have pushed a little bit.
And a few puncture repairs, you said.
Exactly, and we met some friends we met along the way, so I would visit them on the way back again. So it's not like constant driving. Yeah.
So it's actually not that far if you
No, it
think
really
about
isn't.
it. It's so strange.
Not a long time to drive across all that way.
If you take a look what some people are doing in a month in their company car, you could easily go with that amount of miles. You could easily go to Nepal already. Yeah.
It's crazy to think that, and yet so many people don't. For me, I look at a map and I see all these roads interconnect and think, why not? You know, like, to me, I guess I'm from a little island where the roads stopped pretty quickly. If you drive half an hour in any direction, you can't go any further. So to see something like the road spread out from Europe into Asia, you know, or North America to Latin America.
Do you sometimes feel overwhelmed, like with all these different countries and all these different streets that are connected?
I sometimes feel overwhelmed with the logistical challenges of getting through the different places, visas, particularly as we're all from different nationalities. It's complicated, but like we were saying before, like I just try to focus on the next few steps.
Yeah.
And you can't plan too much at the moment. So that brings you back to Germany. You came back, and you've ended up living in what I wouldn't call a tiny home.
It's the opposite. Sometimes I miss living in a van because you have just so little stuff, and it's easy to clean it all and to just tidy it all up. And here it's like so massive.
Our van has never been tidy.
It's true, actually.
No, I know you're lying if you say that your van is tidy. You can tidy it up, but 5 minutes later, it's...
Exactly. Everyone who's showing the tidy van has tidied up at least a couple of hours beforehand.
Yeah, Instagram's great for that, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Just
that's
jump in
what
front
my
of it,
life's
and then everything will be fine.
Yeah, so now you're living in this huge shed that you've rented, which we have been at for a few days. Thank you very much for accommodating us. It's been delightful to be here. What's your plans now? What are you going to do with this incredible space? You've already got your Syncro parked inside, and that's not the only van, is it?
There's a Sprinter. Oh no, a Mercedes.
You're sleeping in a Sprinter at the moment.
Yeah, we do.
I feel like you're cheating on the Volkswagen, because, you know...
The Sprinter has a fixed bed. It's actually quite nice, to be honest. Yeah, and also we just wanted to try out something else. So what do you prefer, actually, the Sprinter or the Syncro?
I think they're both good for respectively what you have to do with them.
You wouldn't drive to Sri Lanka or Nepal with the Sprinter, or you would?
You would? Yeah, I would. no problems
You
at
would?
all. Yes, of course.
But
It doesn't really matter what you go through. I think it's more of like the mindset. It's sort of like not the ideal vehicle. It's just like how you would like to travel. Because some people have done it like in a big caravan. They've been going to India and they didn't have any issues as well. So.
Tell me, if you had to do the journey again, would you take the Sprinter or the Syncro?
Yeah, both would be nice.
Hey, that wasn't one of the options.
Yeah, no, it's. I think if we would do the whole thing, if we would continue living on, I think we would take the Syncro because it's a little bit easier to keep on going and it's made up a little bit more reliable because the Sprinter is just.
it's already a little bit young. It's a little bit younger, and it has more electronics that can break down as well.
Yeah. Plus everything is like very filigrane. The metalworks is very thin and so on.
The Syncro is more robust.
Yeah.
Robust.
Since we came back, we still had the Janin's old van standing around. That one has spent some time in the garage while we were on the way. So we decided to share this experience a little bit because some people they wanna give it a go to try to live in a van or to just take the van for a holiday. So we decided to rent this van out, to rent out an old van to whoever likes to have a feeling for it. And then we would also help the people if they are deciding to go for a van to take like the first couple of steps to give them some ideas what you can do with a van, what's feasible, what's maybe not so feasible, and give them some advice. And this is what we're doing at the moment to do the van rental and also helping out other people who would like to travel in the van.
Yeah, because you've picked up a lot of knowledge on your journey for the basic things that people need to know about when they're overlanding, and it's not always, typical knowledge that you can acquire in other ways in life. So, have you seen much demand for coming to the courses that you've been running?
Yeah, we've seen some demand, and we also saw it already when we were traveling, because whenever we would meet some other travelers, they would always have some small problems with the van, and usually we could help them out very quickly. And so we would already do it like when we were on the go. We would also give some advice to some other fellow travelers to help them out with their vans, because they sort of like just got going or had some problems keep on going on. So.
And you've also been doing it for years with your friends
Exactly.
before.
Yeah, beforehand. We fixed up some vans already, so.
And of course, it's also possible to get all the knowledge like through YouTube or through the internet. But for some people, it's nicer to just have someone that you can ask actually the questions to, and just have the person there.
Yeah, exactly. Because you see so many YouTube channels which are going on induction cooking and so on, and I think people are a little bit blinded that they could have the whole luxury of home electricity in their van. I think some people are a little bit blinded by that. So.
No, it's a great space to be able to do that kind of course and stuff, and it was really valuable going over the puncture thing. Leah was fixing her first puncture. Can't believe how fast you guys did it.
And this was the first time. Imagine you doing it a couple of times.
I'm still not quite convinced about leaving my spare behind. Since we've been here, Steffan's been trying to convince me.
Now you brought it up. Now you open Pandora's box. The comments will keep on coming.
What have I done?
No. If I would do the route again, doesn't matter if I would take the Sprinter or the Syncro, we wouldn't take a spare wheel.
But we took 2 spare wheels.
Yeah, no, that was stupid.
We are a very bad example.
Yeah, but we learned from it, and we saw that we don't need them, so next time I wouldn't bring them.
Didn't I see you taking off the wheel off a rim somewhere, or the wheel was bent?
Yeah, but we could also bend back the rim, and it was going nicely. We just did it because we had it, and this was finally a reason to get rid of one of them, because the rim was bent, and then we would bend them back. So we said, why bother? So we could just leave it. So we gave it as a present to a local, and I like to be thinking that he's still rolling around with this rim.
With his one wheel, waiting for someone to come along, give him 3 more.
No, I reckon they are using them as spare wheels. Yeah, the Nepalese are quite quite
They
handy
use
people.
everything.
They use everything.
He's probably already turned it into an electrical unicycle or something.
Generator, so yeah.
Fantastic to speak through your adventures. What an honour it has been to hear some of the stories over the last few days. I highly encourage anybody listening to go and watch Syncro Travels, because I think you guys shared a really unique thing, and there's not a lot of that on the internet. So it's a real privilege for people like me to be able to come and watch it. So thank you for doing that. And we promise we will leave at some point, you know.
You don't have to.
No, it's okay. You can
As long as you will come tomorrow with us, you will come to Donuts and Blood with us.
Needless to say, we left the barn pretty quickly after that invitation. Thank you so much for sitting through to the end of this video, and I hope you enjoyed the conversation, got some inspiration, entertainment, and hopefully some information out of this one too. It was a great conversation, and cheers to Syncro Travels for sitting down with us and sharing some of their epic journey. I highly recommend you check out their channel. I'll link that below, along with our own travel series up here, and some more adventure experts episodes if you'd like to learn a little bit more from people that are living the dream. All right, guys, that's it for me. Thanks again for watching, and until next time, happy travels.